People who have been on the deep web, what's the scariest thing you've found?
Questioned why he wanted them. He basically said that he wanted to try to breed them to be resistant to normal methods of killing them while simultaneously breeding in a weakness that only he knew. This way he could release them in people's houses and then force them to pay him to get rid of the bed bugs since no one else would be able to kill them. Well, when I visited, I mostly visited the hacking/cybersecurity part. Interesting to see how people go about hacking various things, and really educational. Yes, there are people buying, selling 0 days etc., but it's mostly social engineering. Anyway, the scariest was a hacking advertising a service where he was willing to upload child porn onto someone's computer and report him to the police as a form of taking someone out. Well, actually the scariest part was discovering that there were at least 2 people in the chat room that I was in discussing about kernel security who had used that service. I decided to stick to more regular forums afterwards. I wandered around in the dark stuff about 10 years ago. Worst I saw was basically the Super Adventure Club from South Park. A bunch of rich people on a forum discussing the best ways to abduct children from different parts of the world, the different kinds of kids they owned, how to keep them hidden and healthy, how young is too young for different sex acts, etc. Made me depressed for a few months, and I was pretty fucked up for a few years after. I removed Tor from my computer that day and haven't installed it since. I'm happier not knowing how awful humanity can be. Someone asked this question a while ago. One single reply stood out to me. They were a blogger for dark web stuff and actually met the king of the pedo empire. I forgot the guy's name, he was like a 22-year-old Australian or something. Anywho, she said the scariest thing about him wasn't his appearance, it's how absolutely normal he looked. This was a kid who single-handedly ran the biggest underground kid porn operation and he looked like a regular Starbucks customer. I paraphrased. But this should sound familiar to a bunch of you. The case was interesting because the kid argued that he himself never actually harmed or filmed any children being harmed, and never sexually touched or sexually filmed any child himself. Look up stuff about Daisy's destruction if you're more curious. I haven't and heard it's pretty gruesome, but that Google should put you on the right track to learn more about the story. While randomly clicking around Tor one night, I found a site with a riddle and a text box to enter an answer. After figuring it out, it took me to another page that had a message to decode in another text box. Basically every page was a puzzle and got harder every time. I was 15 and not very smart with those kinds of things, so I found a forum where other people had discovered the site and were talking about it. Apparently on the final page it just displayed a date and a quote from Alice in Wonderland. I believe it was just a site made to be some sort of entertainment for very experienced decoders and programmers, but there was speculation that it was a hacker recruiting site similar to Cicada 3301. Either way, it creeped me out a lot. I got really curious one weekend and set out to see what's been being kept from me. It's both full of interesting and dark shit, but it's mostly crap and crap I don't want to be a part of. Some things I had ran across or found sites for: drugs, weapons and counterfeit money deliveries. A hitman who only took cryptocurrencies and would only do adults. I didn't see prices, but he said it could take around a month for him to find and execute in a safe for him way. He said he'd prefer you don't do people you know though. But like, what's the point then? There was quite a bit about if you really want him to do a kid it's gotta be for a specific reason, and usually you'd have to pay for the parent as well, but that just seemed to be like I don't want to, but if you need it give me a shit ton of money. A credit card swapping website, and a credit card buying website. Counterfeit paycard website, this is the one that got me the most interested. Essentially they use spoofing/VPN and stolen credit card numbers to buy or fake a bunch of prepaid paycards, then they sell those at like 60% the value or something. I couldn't verify the validity of it, so may. Porn of all kinds. It's not really something you can stumble into though, typically the direct links are pretty hidden. I didn't go looking for it, but you get a sense of where you can ask for what. A nude trading repository, like what the fappening was referring to. You essentially trade famous unleaked nudes for others. I had nothing, so it was essentially a strange Craigslist of like I need pics of underscore, I have pics of underscore and underscore unleaked I can trade. A guy who you tell him something you want and he'd go steal it from a store and sell it to you for like half the cost. It's an interesting business lol. Human trafficking. I never went to the sites, but I found a link to one. I just assumed it was something I wouldn't want to see and didn't bother fact-checking. Basically, unless you're a depraved person, it's a huge waste of time and a glimpse into the worst part of people. Edit. To preempt anyone, no, I don't have any Onion links to any of these. I just used wikis and the Onion message boards and felt myself around. It's impossible to tell which of these were scams or not because I never tried to buy anything, but here's a few things I saw years ago. Tons of weapons. Even more drugs. Human trafficking, literally said buy this woman for $4x worth of Bitcoin. Child trafficking, same as above but it was for children and more expensive if I recall. Hitman services. Acid attack services. Tons of websites selling credit card info, PayPal info and bank details. One of the more interesting ones that I actually wanted to try was a forum dedicated to sharing insider trading tips. This way you could make investments that wouldn't be obvious insider trading because you wouldn't be linked to the company involved. However, part of the registration process was that you had to submit a tip that turned out correct. I think this was in 2012 or whenever the Silk Road was at its peak. A friend had told me he ordered some MDMA off of it and actually received the package in the mail. I had him show me how he used the program. I'm bad at computers so I'm not sure if it is a program or not, and we spent the better part of an afternoon marveling at all the stuff you could buy. Eventually we came across someone who was selling children. The offer was you would list the characteristics of the child you want, and depending on the difficulty of acquiring that type of child, pay somewhere around $550K and have the child sent to you. There were pictures of ones he had in stock where they mostly naked in a dirty room, or he could go find the certain one you wanted and take it. We turned off the computer and didn't get back on for a few days. I wish I had called the police, but we were stupid kids and scared of getting in trouble for my buddy's drugs. There was this deep forum I somehow stumbled upon. It had extremely fucked up people. By fucked up I mean psychologically. There were people with suicidal tendencies. There were people telling them that nothing matters and suggesting different ways to suicide. There was this section dedicated to seducing family members' incest. I remember reading a dude's post saying that he's having feeling for his real sister. He tried a lot but she rejected him, calling him crazy. He killed his sister. He then committed suicide because he couldn't take it. This made it to news and gave me shudders. I was incognito so had no history. I couldn't find that site again after that the way I did before. Edit. News didn't mention about the website. Don't know if they know it or now. I made the connection by his post. He also made one last post before suiciding which said something like I killed my sister by accident. Guess I'll die too. He said he had an older brother living in different country and news said that as well. Can be coincidence but chances are extremely low. A lot of what I found was repositories of semi-sketchy information. Like various, extremely specific ways of human torture and signs of when to stop so the person doesn't die, extremely detailed lists of materials to buy to create bombs and how to wire them up for remote, cell phone, detonation, and just odd sexual books. Each was kind of its own topic, repository, like one for torture, one for explosives, one for sex. I didn't venture into any of the porn sites on the dark web, I can find what I need on the regular web. One interesting, not really scary, site I found was Found MacBook Pros of that year. The website claimed to have a couple hundred of them for like $300 EA. They had a picture showing like 5 to 6 powered up, with a pile of them behind. Likely a scam, but you never know. Another interesting one was someone was selling 2 Glocks with their serial numbers removed, for like $2,000. Oh, and people advertised to be hitmen semi-regularly. Some specialized in highly influential people, charging $50,000 upfront and $50,000 after. I didn't really do much on there, so I'd take the legitimacy of all of those services with a grain of salt. My time on the deep web was exploratory and just for curiosity. My buddy, seriously my buddy, and not me, can attest to buying drugs off of the dark web though. He'd buy pills cheap on there, and then sell it on his college campus for huge profits lol. So this may seem like a nebulous answer, but the real scary shit are the portals. By that I mean little doors hidden from everyone except the people who know that they are looking for. Seemingly innocuous sites that have clues hidden in the page source, or seemingly innocent image galleries containing images that have audio clues or other things embedded in the code that have to be extracted through specific means. When I was in college, the guy who got me into computers used to show me the ones he had cracked. One of them led to a PDF that was a copy of the original Anarchist's Cookbook, first edition, before it was heavily edited and stripped down. It had shit in there including detailed chemical breakdowns of military-grade explosives, way deeper than just your typical this is how you build a weapon stuff. There were other, more sinister portals too. There was one that just led to a chat room he showed me that was some kind of ultra-occult LARPing shit. Except they would share ASCII image scans of super fucked up shit, like snuff level violence, that you could really only see if you copy-pasted the code into a word editor and scaled it a certain way. Lots of bizarre, hacker wizardry, and some of it is creepy AF. Was on a pretty disreputable porn site, had just wandered over there because they had full-length hentai with knockin', sexual violence, and no blur. Sue me, ya girl has non-con fantasies. At one point I thought I clicked a link of that nature. It had everything I had mentioned up there, non-con, sexual violence, etc., and the tags stated as much. Know which tag was missing? Hentai. Full live-action video of a girl getting raped. It haunts me to this day, both because I did not need to see that. It's a fantasy, not something I would wish on my worst enemy, much less some poor anonymous woman, and I'm always scared it put me on some NSA list. I've seen a lot. People selling stole credit card info. Also passwords, etc., other types of info. Some kinda hacking software? Pay for it and you get a pre-made malicious file. Kinda neat. But, like, kinda annoying cause even non-talented people can get digital weapons of sorts. Suicide pills. Rapist groups like, discussing their fantasies and successes. The bug-chasing bit and people whose kink it is to inject random people with HIV. Found something about a red room. You've all heard the internet legends, hidden deep in the pages of a non-functioning tiny, unassuming craft website. Not sure if it was a joke or if I actually stumbled across something. There was a form to get in, had to send in a video and a written explanation and some contact info. Not sure what's up with that. Was kinda weird. Video recording of an actual rape. Lots of gore. I mean, hey, you can find any of that shit on LiveLeak or even the corners of Reddit, so, not much of a surprise there. One that stuck with me the most was a guy getting flayed and kicked until he slowly stops yelling/breathing. Fella straight up gets tortured to death. This one's my personal worst. It doesn't sound scary, but I found it in, like, 10th grade and it fucked me up. Some lady posted all this videos of her dancing with this corpse. Man, I think? All rigid, caked up but like a corpse. She put on weird music and danced around and sang to it in her room. There was a few videos about it. Some had more close-up details than others. Fuck, it was so unnerving to look at. Had it propped up against the WLL in the room. It was just fucked up. Like, it was literally an old rotting body with a cheap wig on it. The lighting was low and shaky and whatnot. But, it wasn't a prop horror video because it had like 5 views and got taken down about a year later. All the other videos on her channel were her, and most also hella weird. There were some weird symbols around her messy room, but nothing decipherable like a pentagram or anything right off the bat edgy. Just weird. Her singing creeped me the fuck out. It wasn't intentionally creepy, like, not a slowed down nursery rhyme or anything. It was bouncy and fun but just so fucking weird. Was some kinda love song to the corpse. She had several videos of her and him, dancing in different places of her house. Was a normal looking low-income American style house. Weird as fuck. I don't know. It just stood out to me for being creepy but genuine, rather than being like a no-sleep or creepypasta thing. Me and my brothers all decided to view the dark web together. Once we set up tour we were all telling each other to go first. At the time I was 13 and my brothers were like 12 or 11. We browsed for hours and thought it was boring, just a bunch of drugs and guns. Then we started digging deeper, going through links that led to other links with regular porn. We then accidentally click on an ad, and then a picture of a girl the age of my little sister, about 6 or 7, popped up and she being penetrated by a grown man. I slammed my laptop closed and felt sick. Edit, typed this on my phone so it wasn't so good. I helped out with some of the 4chan raids to help shut down some of those child porn sites. But man, you can't unsee that. That's some messed up crap. Glad it's gone now. Edit, due to the positive response, I've decided to tell my story. I've never told anyone, save 3 special individuals who will always have a special place cut out for them in my heart. Bit of information: one of my closest friends lost his 12 years/old sister to a drunk driver. Me and my friend watched her get hit. I don't curse often, but if you drink and drive, fuck you. With that said, on with the story. A while ago, just before the 4chan raids started up, I had recently gotten a ham better than most people with computers. It wasn't that impressive. I was still a script kiddie, novice hacker who uses other people's programs, but was beginning to spread my own wings and write my own programs. One day, while I dived deeper than normal, Someone went on a sketchy forum posted a link. I thought, what the hell, MVMed, it'll be fine. And I was right. And wrong. I just remember looking into that girl's eyes and seeing a face that reminded me more of the face of my friend's dead sister than of a young girl. She was no more than 10, tops. I shut my computer off and just cried. The anxiety I had long past forgotten crept back into my daily life. I went from being able to actively engage with young kids around that age, to just seeing that girl's face every time I saw someone in their age range. Since the death of my friend's sister, a voice always asked me, why were you not there to stop her? And when I heard that same voice ask the question, why aren't you doing anything? I snapped. I stopped volunteering, started skipping class, stopped attending certain extracurricular activities, and spent 8 to 10 hours a day learning anything and everything I could about coding, hacking, and most importantly, dosing. I went to work to get that website shut down. I don't think I actually did much. After every attempt to shut it down, I'd force myself to follow that link. And it always worked. That face greeted me time and time again. This cycle repeated itself for the most destructive month or two, can't remember, of my life. My physical and mental health deteriorated significantly in this time period. My grades stooped to their lowest ever. Then, just as I began to completely shut down, the one person who knew of my troubles showed me a familiar website I used to browse frequently. Good old 4chan. I got in contact with some people who were far more skilled than I ever was with hacking and the like. At this point, the raids were starting up in full force. I showed the website and my dosing program to a fellow, who will remain nameless, and he made major improvements to my program, and after only a couple days, he'd done what I'd worked for a long time to do. For the first time, instead of being greeted with my nightmares, I was greeted with a white screen with the words "Tor failed to connect" plastered onto it. To this day, if you launch my computer, the only shortcut will have the words "Project Charlotte" plasters beneath it. I didn't save you, I didn't save her, but goddammit, I did my best, and maybe my best was just enough to slightly lower the burden on that young girl's shoulders.
Thanks for watching. Please do like, share, comment and subscribe for more videos.